Sure are, and you're putting in work. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you for being with us. Hope you all had a fabulous weekend. That is Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karam Rose. Stephen A. Smith joining us from the West Coast. Where is he? We'll wait for there he is. What's going on? How are we doing?
How y'all doing? How's everything?
All is well, all is well.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, pretty busy weekend in sports considering it's August, so let's go. Kevin Durant put up his third MVP performance in his third gold medal game. KD has now scored more Olympic points, listen to this, than any American man in basketball history. He was again the show in an 87-82 win against France. And oh, I can't forget to mention Durant is set to sign a 4-year, $198 million contract extension with the Nets. Not a bad weekend for him. He's one of only 2 players to win at least 4 scoring titles and multiple finals MVPs. The other is Michael Jordan. Stephen A. Smith, tell me this. Is Kevin Durant the player under the most pressure?
Well, I don't think we can deny that. Me personally, he's one of them. But I would tell you, no, it's Russell Westbrook. Let me say this. I want to state for the record that Kevin Durant has absolutely no love for me whatsoever. None. I'm convinced of it. Even though I'm cool with the brother, I'm convinced of it. Because I was just on First Take. What was it, Friday, Max? And I was talking about my dreams. I was talking about how I was in La La, and I get to fantasize. I get to dream. I get to do all of these things. I'm out here. I'm getting ready to tape some episodes for Blackish, okay? Because I'm going to appear on Blackish, all right?
Stephen, don't just slide that in. Step in your game up even more. Okay, Thespian, go on with your bad
self. As Brick or as Stephen A. Smith? Hold on, which alias?
Goodness.
No, it's no alias. I'm going to be Stephen A. I'm going to be Stephen A. from Blackish. You know, my brother Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ellis Ross and the crew, the great Lawrence Fishburne, and everybody else. I mean, what a fabulous show. So I'm looking forward to appearing on them someday in the near future. But I'm taping some episodes today. Here's the bottom line. What I'm saying is I came on here Friday, and I said to Max Kellerman, I'm allowed to dream. I'm allowed to fantasize. I'm allowed to do those things. And I'm fantasizing about Kevin Durant. Keep your eye. Will he sign that extension? Because if he doesn't, you understand? And 2 hours later from Tokyo, he agrees that he's going to stay in Brooklyn. I mean, there's just no love for me whatsoever.
Just a Knicks fan. Everything you say about Cowboys fans nauseating.
I didn't report it as news.
We'll get into that.
I didn't report it as news. I was just talking about what I was fantasizing about, what I was watching, and damn, you could have let it last through the weekend. He needed that 2 hours later. I mean, damn. But I would tell you this. I would tell you this in all seriousness. I say this, and I've said this before. No matter what level of pressure Kevin Durant is under, he's a 2-time NBA champion. He's now a 3-time gold medalist. He's all of those things. When you think about Russell Westbrook, it really comes. He's so great, but he's been out of the first round in 4 of the last 5 years. And when you look at it from that perspective, to now be playing with LeBron, which brings its own level of pressure, and AD, Anthony Davis, if you're Russell Westbrook and you go to LA and y'all can't find a way to close the deal, a lot of people's going to look at that. Now, you can sit up there and say, well, they'll look at LeBron, but I will remind you LeBron's a 4-time champion. LeBron's a 4-time champion who's been to 10 NBA finals. So if the Lakers don't advance to the finals, it's not like you're looking at LeBron James, who, by the way, is 36 years of age. You know, Russell's 32. He's gonna pick up the pace because the Lakers were a slow team. They damn sure ain't gonna be slow with him on the court. We know how electrifying he is as a player. He's absolutely unstoppable. He's a walking triple-double. The question is going to be, are you going to be that piece that can take the Lakers over the hump in a Western Conference that's got at least 6 potential title contenders? To me, it's Russell Westbrook more so than KD.
Now, Stephen A., when we have these debates, we are assuming health, right? Like we're assuming these teams are healthy.
We're assuming health.
If you assume health, there's no one under more pressure. Let me rephrase that. The guy under the most pressure is Kevin Durant, even though he has multiple NBA championships and multiple NBA Finals MVPs. And the reason is this. And KD, I want the lower third you have for LeBron, Stephen A. You might need it for KD too. But
the ticker,
he is the most talented player ever at his height, ever in the history of basketball. He's obviously a diligent worker. He would never get to this height.
Astute businessman. Astute businessman. Let's not forget 35 inches.
He is extremely. When you hear KD talk, I've interacted with him very little, but here and there. When you hear him talk, he's obviously highly intelligent. You see the way he's handled career, highly intelligent. And he is an authentic person. He comes across as a real guy. So all that is true about Kevin Durant. But this is what you sign up for when you put together a team like the one they have in Brooklyn. You have to win. If you're KD, these guys are healthy, you must win. I noticed, Stephen A., you said Lakers have to get to the finals because we all recognize, look what they got in Brooklyn. If they're healthy, good luck, everybody. KD understood because he is so intelligent and obviously has a lot of passion for basketball. Guy just loves to play basketball. But he also must have recognized if I wind up without a chip, people will never recognize really what I'm capable of, my actual level. So, and as we're all complaining, you called it the weakest move ever for a superstar, and I was saying it doesn't even count if he wins because they can't lose. Meantime, he goes and wins 2 chips. Our whole perception of him changed. It went from he's this incredibly talented player to where exactly are we putting him among the very greatest players of all time? Is he there with LeBron challenging MJ, or is he just with Bird and Magic and everybody? Like that, he was right about the way we would perceive him. He was right. He joined an unstoppable team. We took some credit away, and even still, in terms of the way he's perceived, he was right. But Stephen A., when you do that, here's what you sign up for. You must win. If KD on this Brooklyn team, who's now been together for a year, even though not always on the court or not often on the court together, going into next season with this crew, comes up short, and coming up short means not winning a championship, that's a failure for KD. That's almost like a scandalous failure, and he won't live it down. There's more pressure on him than anyone.
Well, first of all, Max, you're wrong, completely wrong. And guess why you're more wrong than anybody else? Guess who can prove that you're more wrong than anybody else can prove, even more so than me? You know who that person is, Max?
Who's that?
You. You are the one that is on the record. Correct me if I'm wrong, Molly. You understand what I'm saying? Because you're the matriarch of this show, doing an outstanding job that keeps us in check. You understand? Keeps us composed and focused and right on the money. So you usually do that by your recall, your ability to recollect certain things. Molly, you can confirm that Max Kellerman is on the record stating on numerous occasions, nobody has more pressure than James Harden.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
James Harden is the one.
Yeah.
Because James Harden is the one that hasn't won a championship. James Harden is the prolific scorer. James Harden is the one that's been knocking on the door. So if the Brooklyn Nets somehow, some way don't get over the hump, just like they didn't do when KD dropped 49, the day I predicted he dropped 50, but he gets to the free throw line with 48 points and he misses the front end.
Get you.
Good Lord of mercy.
That's why he signed with the Nets. If you would have kept your mouth shut, he'd be a Knick right now.
I said the brother would drop 50, and he went to the line with 48, and an 85+ free throw percent shooter missed the front end. Okay,
man, Stephen A.
But here's the thing. He's a bad brother, no question. Here's the thing. We all looked at the Brooklyn Nets, and we didn't say KD. We looked at Harden because obviously his health. I'm simply saying, Max, I'm pointing to what you have religiously said over the years when James Harden was leading, obviously advanced to the Brooklyn Nets. You said, there's more pressure on him than anybody. So how can it be both?
It's a fair point, and let me respond to that. What we saw from Harden in this last season, I thought during the regular season, that's game for game the best player in the league. That includes everybody. He was game for game the best player in the league. Jokic, Embiid, LeBron, KD. Regular season, it was Harden. And he has had troubles in the playoffs, and certainly if he chokes, if Harden goes out there and chokes, and that's why they lose, well then yes, he has brought that pressure on himself. But what KD has done recently, there's been a sea change. In terms of the way he's perceived, it's not just he is among the heir apparents to LeBron. There are many people now, given the way he played when he didn't really have Harden or Kyrie in the playoffs, given what he just did in the Olympics, given the fact that he won those 2 MVP finals, and final MVPs. There are people, I believe including you, who push comes to shove, if you're asked right now who's the best player in the game.
I say Kevin Durant. I've been saying it I've saying it at least a year.
No, I think he's the best in the world. You've been saying he's better than LeBron? I don't think so. Last couple months, for sure.
I've been saying for the last year, I think he's the best in the world.
Okay,
when
even in that case, That is now, I think, the prevailing opinion. That KD is, in fact, if you have to choose, people are taking KD over LeBron now. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah, Max, but no, Max. I get where you're coming from, but that still doesn't let you off the hook. I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with your points about KD until it gets to the finality of it all. The bottom line is when you talk about pressure, we have no questions about KD. We, especially now that we saw what he's capable of doing without Kyrie on the floor and with James Harden hobbled. There is no reason to look at the Brooklyn Nets and say, if it's riding on KD, we have questions about James Harden's health and Kyrie's head. That's what we have questions about.
And
we don't have any questions about
perform under pressure.
We don't have. Well, you can bring that up too. All I'm trying to say to you is that's you. That wasn't necessarily me. That's you, and I get it. But that still gets us to the same point. In the end, when we look at the Brooklyn Nets, we ain't got any questions about KD. Everything is about Harden and Kyrie. And in your case, more so Harden than anybody else. That's all I'm saying.
If no one obviously chokes, anyone in a series, if they obviously choke, no matter what their reputation, they brought that pressure and criticism on themselves, right?
Well, Max, hold on. Can't bring up choke because you've never mentioned choke with anyone but Harden. You've never said KD choke. You've never said Kyrie choke. So it's about Harden.
If Harden chokes, what do I mean by choke? He has an 0-for type shooting night from 3 when they need him to score. He turns the ball over 5 times in the second half. All that kind of stuff. Barring something glaring like that, this is KD's team. He's the guy wearing the crown. He's the guy, if not chasing LeBron in the estimation of many, including you, having already passed him. He's the guy chasing history in a different kind of way. It's going to fall on him now, just as it's always fallen on LeBron.
We have to go because Molly says we have to go. You're wrong.
I like this.
Period. We'll go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder how LeBron feels about this conversation. We'll save that for another day. All right, guys, work with me here. We know KD's no stranger, obviously, to calling out the critics. He stayed in attack mode all weekend after winning the gold. Here he is with a former teammate, Draymond Green, that beef squash, calling out another former teammate, Kendrick Perkins, and the rest of his critics. Listen up.
Everybody who said we was going to take the L, they had some power rankings out.
Kendrick Perkins, you talk a lot of
they had some,
act like you American.
They had some power rankings out. They had us 4th behind Slovenia.
Like this not our game.
Come on, man. Talking about they catching up to us. Like, are you serious? This skill is unmatched. You dig? Shout out to everybody that won this gold. Everybody that chipped in and helped out.
Skill is unmatched. Stephen A., act like you're American, would you? All right, Stephen A., tell me this. Does Team USA deserve more credit? Because we were all critical in the beginning when they lost some of those games.
Not me. You know, listen, I've always felt like this is how many times have I been on this show saying you don't need your top #1 A-list from top to bottom to win the gold medal. We're the United States of America, and when it comes to the game of basketball, we are supreme, we are superior, we take a backseat to no one, and we should be able to beat anybody. Now, watching the game from start to finish against France, there were things that I noticed, obviously, and you know this, but you're not really paying attention to it when you read about it, Max. When you sit back and watch it, it's like, damn, you know, no 3 seconds. It's 10-minute quarters instead of 12. It's 5 fouls. And then you see the ticky-tack fouls that you know, they were calling against the U.S. at times. And then at other times allowing a lot of contact. When you look at the European players, particularly France with Rudy Gobert and that other guy, I forgot his name, please forgive me. The bottom line is that in the end, what it came down to is that they were willing to pound and muscle the ball inside. And obviously size wasn't on Team USA's side, and we got all of that. But in the end, you got KD, you got Draymond, who's an elite defender. You saw Damian Lillard come on in the 4th quarter. You saw Jason Tatum helping out Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant clearly was on a mission. You saw a lot of dudes chipping in. Jrue Holiday playing exceptional defense, et cetera, et cetera. I just liked a lot about what I saw. And I thought that when you look at Team USA, so what? The games are going to be a bit more compelling because you're going across the ocean and you're playing a completely different brand of basketball than you had been playing for 72 regular season games this season. season, 82 normally, along with postseason play, because most of the dudes who are competing in Olympic competition are usually postseason players. All of those things get taken into consideration. I mean, listen, Kendrick Perkins is a big boy. He can defend himself, but I had no problem with Draymond or KD, going at critics, pointing out how people were counting him out or questioning them. When you win and you achieve the goal, which they did, you deserve to stick out your chest and say to some folks, how dare you doubt us? They've earned it. I got mad love and respect for what they accomplished, and I never doubted that they would, because I knew that we were superior. We are superior when it comes to the world of basketball, and we will continue to be superior for decades to come.
Well, let me start by saying, who won the most gold medals in the entire Olympics?
USA.
Who won the most medals, period, in the entire Olympics?
That would be Team
USA, right? So
That's
when
right.
Draymond says, act like you're American, I'm sure Kendrick Perkins is, I don't want to speak for Kendrick either, I'm sure he's just as happy about that as you, me, and Molly, and Draymond and KD. We're all very happy about that. Perk's criticism is this is where people can't have it both ways. Do they deserve more credit? Well, then, if so, it's because they were imperiled for the exact reasons you point out, Stephen A. I also made them the favorites to win the whole thing, even without our A team. We didn't send Steph and Harden and LeBron and KD and AD. Some guys were hurt, some guys, whatever. That team, no matter how long the other teams played together for, I'm not stressing it. I'm good. We're good. We'll beat them. That's not the team we sent. We didn't even send the next version of that team. We probably sent the third best version of the team we might have sent. Does that make me nervous? Yes, for the reasons you pointed out. Partly. It's different kind of rules, different kind of fouls called. It's a slightly different game. The three-point line is in, making everyone a better shooter. Also, you're throwing together a team of guys who have to play against guys who've been playing for half a dozen years together. If you just looked at the strength of the rosters, Team USA has a team that, if they played together all the time, would crush everyone and win a championship in the NBA. No other country has a team that would win a championship in the NBA. Of course, we got the best roster. There are all the other factors I just mentioned making it hairy. And how hairy was it? We lost back-to-back exhibitions to Australia and Nigeria. We lost to France once play started. We had to come back. Those guys had to come back on Australia in order to get to France in the gold medal round. It took a great performance by KD. So if we're sitting here asking, do these guys deserve more credit? And I'll say, yeah, they deserve more credit. Then we're also acknowledging that what they did wasn't a given, even if they were favored. What they did was difficult to do. You can't both say it was easy to do and they deserve credit. If they deserve credit, it's because it was tough and they did it. Good for them.
Well, they deserve credit, but it wasn't just tough on a basketball court, Max. You got COVID. You got the debilitating circumstances that's created. You got them playing overseas and not in front of a fan base. That obviously has an effect on you. You got at least a third of their roster that couldn't show up until the finals were over, because Jrue Holiday, Middleton, and Devin Booker had to compete in the NBA Finals. And Jrue Holiday was an incredibly big-time component in all of this. Look at the lockdown effort he put against Patty Mills in Australia, and obviously against France in the closeout game as well, in the gold medal game. You got to take all of those things into consideration. And so when I look at these things and I look at the circumstances, you can sit up there and say the world has been dealing with it, and that would be true. But then we take into account the fact that the world have been playing together, the rest of the world have been playing together for years. That's not the case with this team. And also, you had an entirely different coaching staff. You had Jay Wright, you had Steve Kerr as assistants, along with Greg Popovich being the head coach of the squad. And so you got to pay attention to all of those different things. And I'm looking at it from that perspective as well. And I'm just saying that Lloyd Pierce, let's not forget him, the former Atlanta Hawks head coach. He was on the bench as well. So you had an entirely different coaching staff and obviously a slew of different players, a third of which couldn't even show up until later, after the NBA Finals were over. You had COVID to consider as well. You got a whole bunch of things that they were working against that other teams didn't have to in previous years. And that's why I say give them credit where credit is due. It was tougher, but it wasn't just because of basketball. There were other mitigating circumstances that they had to deal with, and they still handled their business.
Know who Kevin Durant, you're going to love this. You know who Kevin Durant reminds me of when he talked about the skills are unmatched? I go back to Mike Tyson, had just defended the title, knocked someone out. Maybe it was Pinklin Thomas or someone like that. And he said, remember this? How dare these fighters challenge me with their primitive skills? Remember that one? How dare these fighters challenge me with their primitive skills?
That wasn't Terrell Biggs?
It may have been. I don't remember what title.
Biggs.
It may have been Biggs.
Biggs or Pinklin Thomas. One of the
other. It could have been. He just beat the hell out of someone who was pretty good and said, how dare these fighters challenge me with their primitive skills? By the way, Tyrell Biggs was an Olympic gold medalist at super heavyweight.
Yes, he was.
And KD, now pride cometh before the fall, right? Like, Mike was right when he said it, but that doesn't mean you don't have to train. And when he got into that mode, how dare these fighters challenge me, wound up losing to Buster Douglas. What I'm saying is this. Everything you said is right about Team USA. And KD's right, too. Skills are unmatched, obviously. But when you don't have time to train, Team USA wasn't trained the way the other teams were as a team. That gives them the advantage. That's why they deserve credit, because it wasn't just, oh, this is a given. Team USA is going to win. It took some doing. Congratulations, KD, Draymond, and Team USA.
Of course, an insurmountable advantage. Quickly, guys, I want to give a huge shout out to the women's side. Team USA, their 7th consecutive gold, to shout to the ladies. 5 of them, former UConn Huskies.
Can I say this about them real quick? You know, if there's a team that we've all taken for granted, it's the women's Team USA.
Absolutely.
Because they've been dominant.
Setting records.
I mean, I walked in, talking about them a couple of weeks ago. I was like, the men, they're going to have a challenge. Ain't nobody worry about the women. They got this covered. Ain't nobody beating them. And props to Dawn Staley as well, because you won as a player, and the players you won with, now you were coaching them to a gold medal.
Yeah, really incredible all around. Just racking up the chips, guys. Okay, 2018 NFL $17 million extension, elevating his deal's total value to 5 years, $140. He will have a new teammate, 4-time All-Star guard Kemba Walker. Where'd he go to college? I'm sensing a theme. UConn has agreed to the buyout with the Oklahoma City Thunder and will return home to play in New York and join that up-and-coming squad. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bulls are adding San Antonio Spurs free agent guard DeMar DeRozan on a 3-year, $85 million contract. So both teams active during free agency. Now, in addition to DeRozan, the Bulls added Lonzo Ball in a sign and trade, as well as signing former Lakers guard Alex Caruso. The Knicks brought in Evan Fournier and also re-signed last year's most valuable player, as we mentioned, Julius Randle. All right, which team has the brighter future? Who wants to go first here?
Let Max go.
This is a really special subject, so I don't want to get in the way of anything. Max, where were you born?
The Bronx.
Okay, and where do you live?
I live downtown Manhattan.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, just checking. Yeah. Which team has the brighter future, Max? Would it be the New York Knicks, your hometown team, or the Chicago Bulls? Talk to me.
You know, I've been alive for 48 years. I've seen the Bulls win 6 championships.
You look very young for your age.
Oh, thank you. I see the Bulls win 6 championships. I've yet to see the Knicks win one. And I'm afraid to say their futures will look more like their past, at least in relation to each other. Think about what the Bulls just did for a second. The Bulls just took a team with some young talent, and they added, forget about Alex Caruso, nice player, right? He's coming off their bench.
Yeah.
They added to Zach LaVine in the backcourt, Lonzo Ball, who works on any team. He makes any team better. He's an excellent defender. He's a perimeter defender. He is a rebounder. He's a brilliant, genius level passer. He can really shoot, and he shoots a lot. Who wouldn't he work with as a combo guard or point guard in any backcourt? And then DeMar DeRozan, mid-range killer, all-star caliber player. So Lonzo and DeMar and Zach LaVine, who can jump out the gym and also bomb from 3. And Patrick Williams, by the way, was a top 5 draft pick. I think he went 4th overall and is a very, very young player who Stephen A. is already showing promise, known as a defender, but is showing offensive promise. He might be a real baller. It's still very, very early in his career. And then Vucevic, who they traded for from Orlando. Vucevic, one of the best, is 3rd best center in the East. Maybe the most well-rounded center when you consider defensive IQ, along with all the things he can do on offense, as down low as a shooter, as a passer, as a rebounder, a walking double-double with 20-plus points. Like, look at that team. Look what the future seems to hold for that team. Kobe White off the bench. Couldn't play defense at all so far as a young player, but can really light it up. The Bulls are put together as a team where, like Patrick Williams, someone develops a little bit. Stephen A., they will be an Eastern Conference powerhouse for the foreseeable future. Their limit is not going to be long-term second round of the playoffs.
All right, Max. I hear you talking. Max. Let me tell you something, man. I mean, hey, all right. I get you with the Bulls because I'm a Zach LaVine fan. Congratulations to him. He's a gold medalist as well. The brother's a Skywalker. We forget that this brother, he's been saddled with injuries in the past. The brother's fresh off of averaging 27 a game for the season. Now, they only won 31 and 41, but it was a 9-game improvement under the first year of Billy Donovan, who we all respect as a coach, okay? National championship on the collegiate level, 2-time national championship, coaching Joakim Noah and Al Horford and the crew. So I give Billy Donovan a lot of respect, and I'm very, very fond of him, okay? And I like management guard Foreman Paxson out, Arturas Karnasovis. I mean, he's there and what have you. I love the job that he's doing thus far. But damn it, I'm a Knicks fan. And I'm going to tell you something, Max Kellerman. Let me tell you something right now. You sleep all you want to. You can sleep. New York, stand up. New York, stand up. I'm just telling y'all.
You were going to put that to rest for a little while.
Hey, Molly, I suggest you sit there and listen. Because this is very important. This is going to put a smile on your face, what I'm about to say. It's going to put a smile on your face, what I'm about to say, Molly. That brother Kemba Walker, I mean, we got some concerns about his knees, but I know this much. When he's on the court, the brother good for 20 a night. We know he can create his own shot. We know he's got some skills. That's right, Max. You know what, Max? You don't kick your feet up. Do it right. Kick it up on the desk, bro. Kick it up on the desk. Sit back and relax.
I got a bad back, Stephen A. Right now. I got herniated this one.
I feel you. But let me tell y'all something right now. So we got Kemba Walker, right? Bronx native, national champion from UConn. You remember that show, Molly, he put on in that Big East championship. And oh, by the way, when he went to the pros and played those first 7 years in Charlotte or so, I mean, I didn't see a drop-off. With Boston until obviously his knees were a problem. He got to get himself healthy. We understand that. But the combination of him, Derrick Rose, who was putting on a show this past year, along with Emmanuel Quickley, who has a tremendous upside. I like him. I like his moxie. I like his guts. He can play. We good at the point guard spot. You see this kid, Fournier. You saw what he did in the Olympics to some degree when he dropped 28 on Team USA, even though that wasn't the performance he put forth in the gold medal game. But he could play. He's good for 17 or 18 a night. He can hit perimeter shots, plus he could create his own shot. We've got a coach in Tom Thibodeau who is obviously, as you even acknowledge, Max, an elite defensive-minded coach, okay? We got to pay attention to that. Remember in the postseason, Mitchell Robinson was out. He's going to be back. He's talking about a 7'1" rebounder and shot blocker in the interior. Now, I have been told that Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett have been kidnapped. I have been told they have been kidnapped and they have had their left hands handcuffed wherever they are. They're only allowed to use their right hand in the offseason. So come regular season time, when we finally see them again, I am told that they will have learned how to use their right hand. These will be ambidextrous individuals that will remember they have two hands, not just the left. Defenses won't be screaming. They're going left, and they continue to use their left hand. So we'll see that there. And when I look at that, let's take into account what I'm seeing. We solid at the point guard spot. We got somebody that's good for 17 to 18 a night at the off guard spot. We got an elite defense without question because they were top 3 this year defensively. We got that going on. Okay? And the way I look at it is that when you take that into account, what we're building is a team. What we're building is a culture. In Chicago, you might have talent. You might have some talent.
This is a lot for a girl.
There is no Zach LaVine in New York at the Garden. I give you that because I love that brother. Boy, would I give anything to see him.
Is there a DeMar DeRozan?
But I would. Hey, let me tell you something about DeMar DeRozan. I don't think the combination of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine work. That's my biggest thing, Max. I don't think that works. Don't get me wrong. One or the other. But I don't think the both
I like
of
them both. I like them together.
I think one or the other, yes, but not both of them together. And let me say this last thing about Lonzo Ball. I'm going to say it to y'all again. Yes, he averaged 14 points this year. Yes, he shot 37% from three-point range this year. All of that is true. But I'm telling you right now, I still see a dude that's still incrementing. He ain't going south. He's going up, and I give him props for that. I like him. I like his family. Y'all know that. All I'm saying to you is that level of aggression that a lot of people are attaching to Lonzo Ball, thinking he's going to be this, I think that's in you. You either got that or you don't. And I could see him not being that guy. Yeah, he's going to be what he is, but not more than that. And I'm telling you right now, I think the Knicks are going to have a better season than Chicago. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't. And let me say something. Lonzo Ball, as overall value, because you play both sides of the floor, I think is the best point guard on either team. That includes Derrick Rose, who is great. I mean, great as a six-man. You saw the Knicks' fortunes change with Derrick. That includes Kemba Walker because of his size and the defensive liability. That includes Fournier. Anyone you want to mention, I'd rather have Lonzo Ball. I think DeMar DeRozan is the best two guard on either team. And DeMar DeRozan is a mid-range killer. And we saw in the playoffs, Stephen, and we increasingly see actually the mid-range killers have a lot of success in the playoffs because they give you the mid-range. They'll give it to you. They'll protect the paint and the three, and these killers from mid-range will kill you. And that's DeMar DeRozan. And then Zach LaVine bombs from the outside. By the way, all three guys can get to the basket, especially LaVine.
They all three can get to the basket.
Yep.
They all three can get to the basket. That is absolutely an elite defensive team. I don't know how much they're going to prioritize defense. And I'm talking culture, too, man. We're building a culture, okay? Do it for the culture. Do it for the culture. You understand what I'm saying?
4 out of 5 positions, you'd rather have the Bulls guy.
Right?
At 4 out of 5 positions, you'd rather have the Bulls guy than the Knicks guy. Just take Julius Randle over Patrick Williams. That's it. And by the way, Patrick Williams got real potential.
Okay, this is too much for one girl to take. So here's my quote of the day. I wrote these down. Max, the Bulls will be an Eastern Conference powerhouse.
Yep.
Stephen A., the Knicks will be ambidextrous.
I said Julius Randle. I said Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett. I am told they have been kidnapped. They have been that their left arms have been strapped and handcuffed. They're not allowed to use their left hand for.
Now has 4 of the top 8 active players in career points per game with LeBron, AD, Russ, and Melo. Steph Curry agreed to a 4-year, $215 million extension with the Warriors. Last season, Curry joined Michael Jordan as the only players aged 33 or older to win the scoring title. Fresh off carrying Team USA throughout the Olympics and winning his 3rd gold medal, Kevin Durant signed a 4-year, $198 million extension with the Brooklyn Nets. And Kawhi Leonard agreed to re-sign with the Clippers after opting out of his original contract. Leonard is expected to miss significant time as he recovers from an ACL injury. Max Kellerman, I know Kawhi won't be back for some time, but tell me this, will he win a title with the Clippers?
Yeah, I think eventually he will. I don't think Kawhi's done winning championships, and I think it'll be with the Clippers. He's going to sign long-term there. He is still in his prime. Michael Jordan ruined a lot of guys in terms of comparisons because he came around, and once he hit his prime, never missed games, and once he hit his prime, he just won the championship every year. And so nowadays, a year goes by, and, like Kobe at first, and then LeBron or something. What happened? You didn't win the championship. Well, you weren't supposed to win the championship every year until MJ came along. And Kawhi, look, he did it to himself. He trolled LeBron and everything and put all this pressure on himself. But Kawhi is being held to that standard. He didn't win the championship. Again, that's 2 years, even though he choked the first year, had a great series, choked into Game 7, but wasn't available this year because of injury. That's going to happen to Kawhi. He's injury prone. He's going to miss some seasons. He's got chunks of seasons. He might miss some playoffs. You're going to have to load manage him, which is going to get on people's nerves. And then he still may be absent for a time. But he has how many more bites at the apple in L.A. for a Steve Ballmer team, a guy who is clearly willing to spend money to make the team good? Paul George is on the team. You have guys like Terrence Mann, ascending young talent on the team. They just drafted Jason Preston, who is the kind of playmaking, set up your teammates type point guard, imaginative playmaker, they're hoping. that they have lacked recently, because that's not Patrick Beverley, and Rondo also didn't do the job. When you have Kawhi and Paul George as your cornerstones and an owner willing to spend money, and you're going to get 4 or 5 more bites at the apple, I'm going to go ahead and say that a 2-time finals MVP at some point is going to get it done again.
I'm not going to be stupid and say that a guy who's 6'7", 6'8", with his myriad of skills and championship pedigree, who just averaged 30 on 57% shooting in 11 playoff games, ain't no way in hell they're going to win a championship. That's just ignorant. I'm not going to say that. What I'll say to you, Max Kellerman, is that I have my doubts, and I have strong doubts, and they're for several reasons. Number one, I'm on the record. I would not give Kawhi Leonard a long-term contract. I don't blame the Clippers if they do, but I wouldn't do it. Because even though I consider him a top 5 talent in the game when healthy, he's not a culture builder. He's a guy that grabs his lunch pail and does what he does. And at the end of the day, when the buzzer sounds, you know that when tip-off arrives, he shows up. For practicing when you want to, working out when you want to, playing when you want to, and what have you. I just don't think that's a great thing. And from everything that we've been told, that's what he does. Nobody said he's a bad guy. Nobody said teammates dislike him or anything like that. I'm not trying to engage in that kind of cynicism. I'm simply saying, look at the games played. You know, the last few years, he hasn't played more than 60 games. I think the last 4 years. This man takes time off, and he operates to his own beat. And even though that works for him, it compromises everything else. It's similar to what I said, Max, if you recall, when Kyrie Irving was talking about we don't really need a coach. My response was, Kyrie might not, because he's electrifying. He's box office. But those other players did. And when Kyrie went down, and Kevin Durant was looking for help, it was hard to find because of the lack of an experienced person on the sideline to make sure all of those dudes around them were ready. Now, I think Steve Nash will learn from that and be even better this upcoming year, and I think it helps that he's not going to have Mike D'Antoni on the bench with them, okay? But the bottom line is that was a hindrance. When I look at the Clippers, I think about Kawhi Leonard and how that hinders you. I also think about the fact that I'm thinking about Luka Doncic. And Luka Doncic in 6 of the 7 game series that they played, Max, 31, 39, 44, 42, 29, and 46. Where's the hell is the defensive ace that was Kawhi Leonard to do something about that kind of individual dominance? Because that's what Luka was doing to them, which is why the series went 7 games. We got to pay attention to that. We got to pay attention to significant competition in the Western Conference. The only reason why I wouldn't summarily dismiss what you're saying, Max, is because I happen to think that Ty Lue can make an argument that he's the best coach in basketball.
That's right.
Right now.
And
because he's that good of a coach, and you've got some personnel around him, not to mention you got over that hump finally getting to the conference finals. The drafting of that kid Keon Johnson I like as well. I'm just looking at the Los Angeles Clippers. Do they have a chance? Yes. Would I bet my money on Kawhi Leonard? No.
Well, in the playoffs, it would be wise to bet your money on Kawhi Leonard because he's one of the all-time great performers. You mentioned Ty Lue. I believe he is the best coach in basketball. We saw it again these last playoffs. If you go back and look at what – now, look, Kawhi, a great offensive player, Stephen A., is going to get his. I don't care who's on him. You put Dennis Rodman on a great – Dennis Rodman.
No, you mean Luka Doncic, right? You mean Luka Doncic.
Yeah, Luka. I'm saying you could put whoever you want on a great offensive player. If they got it, there's not so much that can be done, particularly in this NBA, the way the rules are enforced. So do you believe, yes or no, Kawhi is a great defensive player? I believe he's one of the greatest defensive players ever, even if he's not quite what he was a couple years ago defensively. I'll give you that. He's still a great defensive player. You go back and look at the playoff series, like you mentioned, 30 points a game on 55, 58% shooting, whatever. Here is playoff series, just going back to 2017. This is what he averaged in each series. 27, 32, 24, 33, 29, 30, 35, 28, 26, 24, 31. He's doing it on great shooting, and he's doing it with defense. Like, even if you think he's not a culture builder, any great team's going to have at least 2 max contract type guys nowadays, right? Can Kawhi be one of them? Yes, he can.
Yes,
and
he can.
He'll frequently be the best player in the series.
You cannot justify not paying him. Like, I think year to year. Here's what I'm trying to say, Max. I have no problem with Kawhi Leonard's money. I think he deserves every penny. It's the years that I have a problem with him with. Well, because I think durability is a question mark. And I think his level of commitment towards being something more than just a great player plays a role in here. The thing
that's why I like him, Stephen A., on the long-term deal, because if it was 1 or 2 years, maybe he doesn't win a chip with him. But remember, the Clippers have never won a chip.
Okay, that's fair.
Or even been there. You give him 4 years, I think he can get it done.
Okay, that's fair, but that requires trust. And what I'm saying to you is that when you're in Kawhi Leonard's position, I personally believe you have an obligation to be more than just a great player. You got to be a leader. You got to be the face of a franchise. If LeBron James pulled a portion of the stuff that Kawhi Leonard has pulled,
you never hear the end of it.
We would be all over him. We would crucify him. It's a shame, and Kendrick Perkins was right when he said that. It's a shame that Kawhi Leonard has flown under the radar and has gotten away with some of the stuff that he's gotten away with in hijacking the Clippers organization.
But, Stephen, I think part of that is how he lays low. You know, he's not on social media, doesn't.
Possible to average a triple-double in the NBA? What would you have thought that? I would say, why not?
Big baller, on my way to a triple-double.
Westbrook's got his triple-double.
Triple-double. Triple-double. Move over, hang up.
What he's doing is just electrifying. He just attacks everybody.
There's no player like myself.
He's made the triple-double look so easy.
This shit ain't easy, though. I'll tell you that.
History. Russell Westbrook has just surpassed Oscar Robertson.
Normally I don't like to pat myself on the back, but tonight I will. I won't stop until I can't play no more.
Westbrook gives the Lakers a star-studded big three. LeBron, AD, and Westbrook have combined for 34 All-Star selections. They would be the second team to have a trio with that many, along with the 2011 Celtics, who featured Shaq, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce. It also gives the Lakers two of the best playmakers of all time. LeBron and Westbrook have combined for 283 career triple-doubles. Westbrook is the all-time leader in that category, while LeBron ranks fifth. Both players also have a scoring title and assist title under their belt. But then there's this question of how they'll fit, especially in terms of floor spacing. Westbrook shoots just over 30% from three in his career, something the Lakers ranked 21st in last season. But to be fair, LeBron won 2 titles with D. Wade, who shot worse than 30% from three in his career. The Nets remain the favorites to win the title next season, according to Caesars in Vegas, but the Lakers not far behind. After LA, it's the Bucks at plus 800, followed by Golden State. Now it is great to be joined by our friend TNT's Kenny the Jet Smith. Kenny, how we doing?
I'm doing great down here in Chapel Hill, as you see, at the Dean E. Smith Center. Out here enjoying myself and having a good summer.
Good. That's what we like to hear. We got so much to talk to you about, but we want to get your reaction to the major news. Obviously, the Russell Westbrook teaming up with LeBron and AD in LA. Your reaction?
Well, I think, we heard all the rumblings that they wanted to add another piece, the big three or whatever you want to call it. Russell Westbrook, obviously, what he does, not just on the scoring end, but in terms of the pace of the game. It allows LeBron to be a finisher a lot instead of always the facilitator. And so, running that break, you have LeBron on the wing instead of with the ball a lot of times now. That's going to be a difficult situation for a lot of teams to handle.
I feel you on that, Kenny. It's always good to see you, my brother. You know that. I feel you. I feel you on that. Here's where my reservation lies as it pertains to winning a championship, because I definitely think they'll be the Final Four in the NBA, but winning a championship. Couple of things. Number one, that pace of play you just alluded to. LeBron James is phenomenal of a conditioned athlete as he is. He's no young spring chicken any longer. And so that pace of play, that's not necessarily a guarantee in my estimation. That's number one. And number two, their perimeter shooting. Because we all know that when you talk about beating a Golden State, when you talk about beating the Clippers, when you're talking about beating the Nets potentially in an NBA Finals, you got to be able to shoot the rock, not just from the perimeter, but from the free throw line. And as I pointed out early in the show, LeBron James shot 69% from the free throw line last year. Russell Westbrook shot 65%. Kyrie was at 92. James Harden's at 86. KD was at around 87, 88. Those things matter. What do you say to that?
I'd say the one thing that, for perimeter shooting, I thought I was a good shooter until I got to Houston. I became a great shooter because you go to Houston and you get an extra second because they're double teaming great players. And so when you're playing with a guy like LeBron and Russell and AD, if you're a good shooter, you become great because now you're going to be left open. It was the first time in my life, Steven and guys, that I was left open. So there are certain guys who probably had never been left open that long that will have, opportunities. If you think of guys like PJ Tucker when he was in Houston and even this year, they get shots and they get an extra second to think about it and to really set their feet. So that actually makes you a better shooter playing with those guys who are maybe a marginal guy who comes in and say he can knock down shots. Then all of a sudden he comes there and they say, man, he's a prolific three-point shooter. It's because you got extra time.
Kenny, let's say they get two pure shooters to round out the starting five, right? Because they still got the sign and trade rights for Schroder, and they have Taylor Horton Tucker. They have some stuff that may not work on this team, but other teams might be interested in. I look at the Nets. The difference is offensively, all three of their big three are, for their size, among the greatest scorers ever from anywhere, right? That's not the Lakers. But if the Lakers round out the starting five with a couple of pure shooters, is that enough, or does the shooting need to be distributed better among the guys who are going to touch the ball as the most, like Westbrook and LeBron and AD? Does that give the Nets an advantage if they should meet in the finals?
Are we already negating the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks won the
Yeah, because they only won because the Nets got hurt.
Are we not
going to
think that they're going to be back anywhere? I just feel that, there's a lot of things that you could say in terms of talent. If you look on paper, those two teams have, some talent, but they're most talented roster assembled. However, like we said, they're not in there. This is not Russell Westbrook 8 years ago. This is not LeBron 8 years ago. This is not, even pre-injury for Kevin Durant. Like, if Kevin Durant is in the Olympics 5 years ago, they don't lose a game. Like, he could take over all of those games. So this is not the same kind of guys. And, youthfulness, energy, playing together, that means something. So I wouldn't just hand those two teams, the East and the West, at all. I think that they're going to have to work for it. They have to stay injury free. They're going to be playing saving him for this game, and that gets you out of rhythm. And I thought that got the Lakers out of rhythm this year, and we'll see if it doesn't do it this next year.
Russell Westbrook, Kenny Smith, fourth team in 4 years. Teammates: Kevin Durant, Reggie Jackson, Serge Ibaka, Victor Oladipo, Paul George, James Harden again, Bradley Beal. No championship to show for it. And now has got LeBron James and Anthony Davis as his teammate. At the start of this show, I talked about how, because he's so phenomenal and because he's a surefire first ballot future Hall of Famer, all of those things taken into consideration, he will never be under more pressure than he will be this year. He won't care, but that's the situation. Am I right or wrong about that?
Well, I don't think not having a championship dampens your legacy, but it definitely adds to it. Like, it definitely adds to it. The reason I'm on TNT and sitting here with you at ESPN right now is because I won 2 championships. I have a perspective that's going to be different and that has a finality to it. So, yes, winning a championship for Russell Westbrook, does it help his career? Yes. Does it dampen it if he doesn't? No, he's done enough individually. But it makes him, when you walk around with that championship, that C on your left shoulder, like, that's a different perspective.
But Kenny,
and a different thought process.
Yeah, but I'm asking you, coming into this season, I don't